Welcome to the next stage of design development. Today we'll be looking at design duplication, and for some continuity I will be using the basic designs from my last video. Now you want to start by folding a largish piece of paper into sections, and here's one I prepared earlier. If you don't have any large pieces of paper, you can just use lots of smaller pieces and stick them together at a later date. Now, I've only folded this one into 8 sections, but for this exercise you can do as many as you like, and really the more the better. Now, to start, we take your most preferred little doodle design from the previous drawings and you copy it into the first square. Now, I've cheated a little bit. I've just cut and stuck that one to save some time. Now, the next step is we take this drawing, we make one change to it and put it in this square here. And then we make one change to this drawing and put it there, and so on until we've filled all the squares. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As you can see, I'm still not putting in much detail in at this point. There is just enough to show any differences between each drawing. At this stage, there is still no point putting much effort in at all because, again, you're moving on quickly from this. These are not final ideas, these are not final drawings. Right, so with those 7 done, we can now move on to the next step, which is easy enough. You just have to decide which 3 of these we like the most, and we move on to further development with them. So, I pick the ones I like, which are this one here. Quite like this one in the corner, number 7 here. And I'm also quite keen to see how this one turns out. Right, the next stage to this I like to call material and form development. So we've got our 3, well, my 3 chosen ones. This one here, this one here, this one here. But to keep this fairly short, I'm just going to concentrate on number 7 here. Now I've already done a quick 5-minute sketch here of that in a little more detail. As you can see, this is where you can start to put a little bit more detail in, but not too much, because again there's still very little point. Now I would recommend you go ahead and, if you can, photocopy this a few times, because you're going to need more than one, or it's useful to have more than one, and you don't want to have to redraw it repeatedly. There's the little point in that when you can just photocopy it. Now, this section, whilst there's a bit more detail, we don't want too much because we've no idea what really we're going to be making this from yet. I've got a few ideas, but I need to sort of think and plan that out. So this is what this is for. So, for example, these little feet down here, they're the rounded It's not really very good for stability, even though it's on 3 legs. So again, this is why you photocopy it. Draw a little circle around this. And I show that even though it's rounded at the bottom, it's also not rounded. It's flat, so it'll sit flat there. Now I can also here at this point think about what material I want this to be made out of. Now, whilst I'm thinking for the legs to have as metal, I'm thinking the end caps here be a hardwood. And I'm going to go ahead and say oak, because it's a nice hardwood, and I'm thinking I'll use that for the rest. As we're on the subject of wood, I'm going to look at the base here, the actual seat bit. Now, whilst I'm thinking I'll use oak, like with the little feet, I've got to think about the edge, the form of it. So, yes, it's circular on the top. But what about the edge, the very edges of it? Am I going to have sort of a flat square? Almost, so it sits like this. Now, personally, I don't think that would be too comfortable. So I'm thinking more of a, whilst in the middle we have dip, then at the edges again comes back down, almost like a bow, and the inside of it can follow that shape. And that might be more comfortable, it might not. We don't have to worry about that right now. But that's the shape I'm thinking for that, not this. Because whilst this would be easier, it's nowhere near as interesting as this. So up at the top here, we do the same process. So we've got the curved shape here, looking a bit like a banana. Now I'm quite happy with the way that already it's thicker in this section here than it is in this section. But I want to think about what's the overall shape of it. So if we have a cross section of it, so imagine we're looking from up here, is it going to be square? But if this is not square here, should this really be square? I think not. I think really it should be more of an oval shape. So we just write that in. And then also, to remind ourselves what material we're going to use, we'll use oak here. Now, for the rest of the chair, or the stool as it's turning more into, we've got to think about all of this material here. What are we going to make this out of? Well, I've just coloured it in solidly to show the difference in material, that I want it to be a different material. Now, I feel that with black would go a nice, with the oak rather, a nice black iron. And because we're not having a square shape up here, we're not having a we're not having a hard edge along here, I thought perhaps it would be best to have it as spherical as well, and all of this as well be the same. Now to actually connect it, being black iron, which doesn't weld particularly well, could be forge weld, and as we don't have to produce this, it can be whatever I like. So I could have this forge, forge welded iron if I wanted. And there we have the beginnings of a plan. And this is why I say photocopy it, because you can repeat this process half a dozen times and not have to redraw repeatedly. And that's that section complete. That's, we move on to the next step. At this stage in the design process, it's important that we refer back to our original drawings, so our original doodle sketches that we did. And we refer back to those to make sure that we haven't deviated too far from our original idea. and I'm quite happy that I've stayed in line with them. I can see the connections between those original mushroom-like forms that I picked out and mushroom-like forms within my current design. At this stage, it's also important that we go and find some research material. So we look at other designs and designers who are using similar materials and forms as to what we are planning on using. Now, these ideas aren't set in stone still, so our materials that we wish to use are not set in stone. So if we come across another designer who uses, say, plastic and metal, we can just pull out one of our handily photocopied sketches that we've done and redo the materials, try again. And we can repeat this process as many times as we like. Well, that's the end of this video. Hopefully you found it useful and be able to use it somehow, and I'll see you for the next one.